One thing, you know, I do think that obviously we need new journalism models that are of service to more people. But thinking about this, like in terms of disruptive journalism, actually what we're trying to do here with Outlier is to use journalism as a stabilizing force. So Detroit is a beautiful city. It is a wonderful city. It is, there's about 670,000 people in Detroit. There's about 4 million in the metro area. Detroit is a predominantly Black city, about 85% African American. It's about 60% low income. So a lot of the issues that we see here in Detroit are exacerbated by race and poverty. So Outlier was designed in 2016 to kind of try to fill information gaps. We wanted to be an intervention, use journalism as an intervention, attack the information gaps, and put valuable information that people could act on right in there. And then when information wouldn't make a difference, then we wanted to look at what other kind of accountability reporting can we do. Investigative journalism is very expensive, and because it takes a lot of time. So even if you're not doing something fancy, it just takes a lot of time. So it's expensive. And if we're gonna do investigative journalism, which is the thing that I really want to be doing, how are we gonna make sure that we're using those resources on an issue that is affecting a very large group of people? So that's what Outlier did. We use a lot of data to determine where information gaps are. We have a lot of public data, and we use some from very large service organizations as well. So I wrote this story about a month ago. I wrote it on March 25th. And Detroit has been really devastated by COVID-19. We were one of the earlier outbreaks here, and it's been very devastating. We've lost over 1,000 people in the city. This is what we used to do, right? Is accountability journalism, very much focused on housing and utilities, because those were people's biggest information gaps prior to this. We have an SMS based news product, and it always had housing information in it. We retooled it to deal with COVID-19. So if you all can access, I think if you're short, I don't know if short codes work internationally, but you can check it out. This is what it looks like on the back end. These are like the messages that we get. This is a message I just got and responded to when I logged in this morning, right? This is all of these 8 things are information that people can access right away, right? On things that are important for them to be able to survive and navigate this crisis. And it does still lead us to investigative journalism. That's the idea of this, is that it's a very effective and efficient engine. So this person told me that their relative died and the apartment won't let them get in. I wanted to know a little bit more about this. So I asked her, and I did have a feeling that this is what she was gonna tell me. It's a senior living facility, which is not a nursing home. And they are not, they are very, vulnerable to COVID-19 outbreaks, but they're regulated by the federal government, not the cities. And so we've been worried about what's going on inside of those places. This is another one. This person works at a very small company, but inside of Detroit's public hospital. They got COVID-19 from work, had to take 2 weeks off, have not gotten paid, and are now behind on some other debts that usually are garnished from their paycheck. Again, these are things that we want to work on. Hey, 5G coming up again, same thing. We heard this early on. We had one of our smaller, like a small news site, who was willing to chase that down. They did that for us. We don't have our own publishing platform. We never have. We work collaboratively with the other folks who work in the city. So these are all those stories that came from our news service. And then they're reported out in all of these different things. This is what it looks like on the back end between my, I had to, black those out so you guys can't see those. But this is like what it looks like day to day when the employees are sharing this information, and we're telling each other like, oops, I jumped in there. You need to follow up with that person. So I would say that the other thing about what we're doing is that we are combating some misinformation, but the other thing we really see is that these information gaps were created by the way that news economics worked before, which means that news consumers of color and low-income news consumers are not valued by a lot of the media here, and that includes public media. And I came from public media, and I think that that's a real tragedy, that those aren't the folks that that newspapers and media really want to serve. They want to serve people who they believe can subscribe, who they believe can donate, and that is what created those information gaps and those accountability gaps in the first place. And that's why we really look at our work as an intervention, because we're trying to kind of level that playing field. And if public media won't step up and do that work, we are going to do that work. So that's our model. And so far, it's been really effective. We buy numbers like from a marketing list, basically. We also advertise with a lot of the food banks around here since the pandemic. We're going into our 4th week of operating this service, and we send out about 5,000 messages every day, and we talk to about 200 people every day. So it's not something that can scale. You definitely there's 3 of us who work this system. And it's not something that scales easily, but it does replicate easily. So we've also helped a news collaboration in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, get one of these up and running, and they'll be launching on Monday.